This topic, as you see, this world and the world to come, is actually, in order to really discuss it, we have to just mention another big thing, which is a whole topic by itself. And this is the purpose of the creation. Why Hashem created the entire creation, and what is the creation? This is the description of what Hashem created. The Medrash says that when Hashem created the world, actually he created two words. He created one word, and the main word that he created is what we called the world to come. This world is a temporary world. I'll explain it later. But in order to get to the goal, we have to go through this hallway. This is just a way to get to the real destination. We have to understand that a person, a human being, is a combination of two parts. The physical, which is the temporary, because it's limited by time and space. And each one of us has a neshama. As a neshama is not material, and it's not limited by time and by space. And Hashem put the neshama inside the body for a reason. And this is the meaning of this world. This world called Olam HaAvodah. The world of challenge, the world of work. The world to come called the world of the reward, Olam HaSachar. Now, the Sachar is just the mean. The work is just the mean. The goal is to get the reward. And the reward is big, is internal, eternal. So, let's see, well, how much we could cover from this topic. When we go to the Torah, we go to the beginning of the Torah, the description of the creation, right? So, in the first chapter of Genesis, of Sefer Bereshit, the first chapter described the first 6 days of the creation. When you're done with the 6th day, you start the second chapter. The second chapter has 3 verses, speaks about Shabbat. We just now in Motzei Shabbat, so everyone knows by heart, right? The Vayichulu. Vayichulu Hashamayim v'aretz v'chol tzva'am v'yichal Elokim b'yom hashvi'i. I will mention something that is obvious, but soon you will understand why I'm mentioning this. The 7th day of the creation comes after the 6th, right? It's obvious. 7 come after the 6th. Now look at the famous verses that we repeat again and again and again every Shabbat, and even more than once every Shabbat, the Vayichulu. And I want to show you something that you probably never pay attention to. Okay? Vayichulu Hashamayim v'aretz v'chol tzva'am. I will read the Hebrew. Here you have the English if you need it. Vayichulu Hashamayim v'aretz v'chol tzva'am v'yichal Elohim b'yom hashvi'i melachto asher asa. Be aware of this word, asa. This is a description of the 7th day. The 7th day comes after the 6th. Therefore, asher asa is in a past. He had done, right? He had done in the 6th day that was prior to the Shabbat. Let's continue. Vayishbot b'yom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. Again, this word mentioned as in the past. What he did, he had done. Then it mentioned the 3rd time, and look, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. So the translation to English is not good. Okay. The work which God created to make. In Hebrew, לעשות is future. So what's going on with the grammar over here? Right? spot over here on this pasuk mentioned this, and in few words, as that is his way, he hint to something big. I will start not from the Ramban but from the Gemara. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin bring the following. In Masechet Sanhedrin, Daf Tzadik Zayin Amud Aleph. Tana Deve Eliyahu. Eliyahu Hanavi taught. Shita alfe shneha ve'alma ve'chad charu. This world gonna exist for 6 millennia. After the 6 millennia, the world will be destroyed for 1 whole 1,000 years. Ulesof elef shana, after this 1,000 years will pass, Sham HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mechadesh et Olamo, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu renew his world. And here, and you have to understand it in the right way. And here's the description, and it's the Gemara quotes the Medrash called Tana Deve Eliyahu, which is, by the way, a few words about it. Tana Deve Eliyahu is one of the earliest midrashim that we have. And the Gemara in many places quote from it and relate to it as a very, very important and solid source. The story of this Medrash is very interesting. One of the scholars in the Talmud, the scholars of the Talmud called Amoraim, versus the scholars of the Mishnah that was before them that called Tanaim. So one of the scholars of the Talmud, his name was Rav Anan. Rav Anan. Rav Anan was in very high level, and he has a merit to learn Chavrusa, one-on-one with Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi was his Chavrusa. He learned with him Torah. There is a whole story. The stories appear in Masechet Ketubot, but the bottom line of it, he wrote a whole book, Rav Anan, of what Eliyahu Hanavi taught him. And this is the Medrash called Tana Deve Eliyahu. By the way, you could get it in any bookstore, any big Judaica store, bookstore. You could get this book. It's a famous Midrash. So here the Gemara quotes this Midrash, and the Gemara says, explaining actually those notions, this world and the world to come. This world is the 6,000 years since the creation until what? At the end of the 6th millennia. What's written over here that after the 6th millennia, the world gonna destroy. It's scary, but there is no reason to be scared. This destruction is not a destructive destruction, but a constructive one. A constructive destruction. And I'll explain it. By the way, to know the update about the date, not too many people know, especially if you live here in America, what's the real date is today. So the real date today, according to the Jewish calendar, is 5,776. This is the Jewish, according to the Jewish calendar, this is the date. So if the world, since it was created, is 6,000, minus this number, you will get 224. Not too much left to the end of the 6th millennium. People could say, you know what, it's not in my time. Well, okay, but it could be in the time of your grandchildren, or another generation, or two. Relatively, if you look at the big picture, it's very, very close. Now, I'll tell you why it's so significant, because things are not going to happen only then at the last moment. We are in process, and right now, big things happening. We'll talk about them later. Anyway, from where those numbers? Eliyahu Hanavi said that, but what's the numbers? So here, let's learn the Ramban. The Ramban on this pasuk. So remember this bara, and those are the psukim, and Asher bara Elokim la'asot. In the beginning of the creation, it speaks about the future. Says the Ramban, Asher bara Elokim la'asot, veda, כי נכלל עוד במילת לעשות. He explained the simple, then he said veda, and you should know. Anytime that the Ramban said, and you should know, he hinted to something that's in Kabbalah. And you should know that in the word la'asot, there is a whole realm of information. And what is it? כי ששת ימי בראשית הם כל ימות עולם. כי יהיה קיומו 6,000 שנה. We're talking here about the sixth day of the creation. In the sixth day of the creation, there is also a hint to the bigger picture. It was created in 6 days in order to exist 6,000 years. Why? In brief, I'll tell you the following. When Hashem created the world, He created it in 6 days. At the end of this 6 days, those 6 days, He created Adam. And when He created Adam, He actually gave the entire universe, the entire creation, under His control. We mentioned that yesterday night, if you were in the class that we gave after the meeting, Leil Shabbat. נעשה אדם בצלמנו כדמותנו וירדו בדגת הים. ירדו בדגת הים, meaning I'm going to give everything under the control of the human being that I'm going to create. The Medrash says that when Hashem put or shows Adam the entire world and told him, listen, all of this is under your control, you could lead it in the right way or in the wrong way. So he warned him and he said, if you will not manage it in the right way, you're going to ruin it. And that's exactly what happened. He was commanded one thing, not to eat from the Etz Hadat Tovara, and he sinned in the same day and he destroyed the world. The meaning of this, that the world that we live in today is not the world that Hashem created. The world that Hashem created exists or survived 6 days only. And the 6th day Adam came and destroyed it. And here today, since then, we are in the ruined world. Ruined world. There is a pasuk in Tehillim, famous pasuk. The pasuk says the following: Ki 1,000 shanim be'enecha ki yom etmol. 1,000 years. This is a quote from the pasuk in Tehillim. 1,000 years in your eyes, or from your point of view, we're talking about Hashem, are like one day. Ki 1,000 shanim be'enecha, 1,000 years is like a one day. So, there are two attributes that Hashem chose to run this world. One called the attribute of judgment, midat adin, and the other one called midat harachamim, the attribute of mercy. According to midat adin, Hashem told Adam HaRishon, Ki biyom acholcha mimenu mot tamut. If you will eat from this tree, you're going to die. And the meaning, you're going to die and the world is going to be destroyed completely. This is according to midat adin, to the attribute of judgment. If that was the only one, the world was no war, no world. The entire thing was going back to nothing. Because Hashem did not want to destroy the world, in advance He created something called the attribute of mercy. The attribute of mercy is not that the judgment will not apply. Ramchal explained this very deeply in Mesilat Yesharim. He said that there is no contradiction between midat adin and midat harachamim, the attribute of mercy to the attribute of judgment. If the attribute of mercy will say, you know what, okay, I'll forgive you, forget it. That was a complete contradiction. Midat harachamim, the attribute of mercy, allow a leeway between the action and the impact. According to midat adin, when someone, let me give you an example, a very good example to understand it. Imagine someone has very not good life. So he was depressed for a while and he decided that there is no point to live anymore, he decided to commit suicide. He went to the pharmacy and he bought a few things that together would be a very deadly poison. He went home, took a cup of water, and mixed it in, and drank the entire cup at once. Then it takes a few minutes. After 1 minute, when we done drinking it, he regretted. He said, "Oh, that's so stupid. I have what to do still in this world." It's too late. He drank the entire poison. He learned biology and he knew that he could take an antidote, but it will work only within 15 minutes. So he ran to the pharmacy. He knew what would be the antidote. He asked them, "Do you have this?" "Yes." "Give it to me right now because I have really short time in order to neutral the poison." He was lucky enough and he took it and it neutralized it and he survived. Okay? This is actually the relationship between the attribute of judgment or the attribute of mercy. According to the attribute of judgment, the result should happen immediately. According to the attribute of mercy, the result will be there. It's not just disappear. But it will give you time. What could you do with this time? You could fix the wrong action that you did. And if you took it away, meaning you took the antidote, the result will not apply. If you will waste the time, the result will apply. Therefore, the attribute of mercy is not a contradict. It's not a contradiction, but it's giving you just this time to fix. According to the attribute of judgment, Hashem says to Adam HaRishon, "Beyom acholcha mimeno mot tamut." The day you eat from this tree, you're going to die. And we all know that he didn't die at the same day. Right? If you continue, the information in Parashat Bereshit says that he lived long time after that. 930 years. What is the meaning of this? By the way, it says the Ramban, "Ki biyom acholcha mimeno mot tamut." It's not that at the day that you'll eat, you'll die. The meaning of it, at the simple level, "Ki biyom acholcha mimeno mot tamut," at the day that you will eat from it, you will become mortal. Tiyeh ben mavet. Not that you die right away, but you become mortal. So because of the attribute of mercy, Hashem didn't destroy the world at once, at the sixth day of the creation, when the spiritual damage happened. He gave the world a chance to fix this spiritual damage caused by Adam HaRishon. The time was 6,000 years. Why? Ki 1,000 shanim be'enecha ki yom. Parallel to each day that Hashem created something, Hashem gave the world 1,000 years. Therefore, it's 6,000 years. Okay? According to the Kabbalah, everything that's happening since Adam HaRishon to the end of the 6th millennia is a tikkun. Tikkun chet Adam HaRishon. Tikkun is a process of construction. You fix. And each one of us has part of this tikkun, of this fixing. Okay, so now we have the frame. We know what's Olam Hazeh. We do not know yet what's Olam Haba. And a big question mark is about the seventh millennia, when for a whole 1,000 years this world will be destroyed. As I said before, it's not a destructive destruction, but a constructive destruction. How it could be? If you understand that the 6th millennia, each 1,000 is parallel to 1 day of the creation. According to that, the 7th millennia is parallel to Shabbat, to the 7th day. Now, people who do not keep Shabbat, our Shabbat, every week, are really scared from Shabbat. I mean, if we'll take someone who never keeps Shabbat and tell him, you know what, try just for the sport. You're not become Baal Tshuva now. Just for the sport, to keep one Shabbat. How this Shabbat going to look like for him? Terrible. You cannot hear music, cannot cook, cannot open the fridge if you didn't took the light. It will be just nightmare. Nightmare. In order to keep Shabbat and enjoy it, you have to get used to it. You have to know what's right, what you're allowed to do, what not. You have to prepare, right? So we know that for people who never keep Shabbat, the first Shabbat will not be pleasurable. For people who keep Shabbat, every Shabbat is a gift. We just wait. Now it's Motzei Shabbat. We start waiting now for the next Shabbat. We enjoy Shabbat. The seventh millennia is the Shabbat of the world. People who has the entire meaning of their life in the material will not enjoy this Shabbat. But people who has built in themselves ability to enjoy the spiritual dimension of themselves, of the universe, they will enjoy this Shabbat. So the seventh millennium will be a destruction of the physical in order to flourish the spiritual. So it's a good thing. But the physical will not be the way we know it now. How it's going to look like, we do not know. It says in the Tanakh, it says in the Gemara that Kol HaNevi'im kulam, all the prophets, nib'u, lo nib'u ela liyimot HaMashiach. All the prophets describe until the end of the sixth millennium. אבל לעתיד לבוא, עין לא ראתה אלוקים זולתך. No one, even not the prophets, they knew, we have no information, even not in Nevuah and prophecy, how the seven, and of course what after that, will really look like. We have no tools or ability to grasp or understand this. But we know it's going to be good. We know it's going to be good. Now, after the seven millennia, in a way, the seven millennia connected to the six. It's connected to the Olam Hazeh, this world. Olam Haba started, the world to come, will start only in Motzei Shabbat, at the end of the seventh millennia. But, what's written over here, Lesof Elef Shana, after 1,000 years, Hashem will renew His world. The renewing is not a better version of this one. It's not Windows 10 or 11. It's completely something else. Completely. The major difference will be that there will be no time anymore. Will not be 8, 9, 10, 11, etc. That will be the world of eternity. No time. Everything exists forever. Now, in general, we have to know that there is a good news for Jews. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek la'olam haba. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek la'olam haba. Meaning, we are the nation of eternity. Even in this world, we are the nation of eternity. You know Ve'isha Amda? Ve'isha Amda that we quote in Ve'isha Amda la'avotenu ve'lanu. The promise of God that the Jewish nation will be existing forever. This promise. Amda, that stand for our forefathers and for us. Shebechol dor vador omdim aleinu lechalotenu. Every generation, there is a threat that the Jewish nation will be vanished. Always you have the anti-Semite to take on themselves the job to just erase the Jews from under the ground. And they could not do it. Am Yisrael Chai. We are alive. All the reasons of the world. This is the major, amazing miracle. You do not have to be, super intelligent to if you just look at it a little bit. You want to see real miracle. Today, this miracle is it. 3 words. Am Yisrael Chai. All the reasons, from every angle that you look at it, we have all the reasons that we will not exist anymore. Not just today. 1,000 years ago, another year, another 10 years. It seems like we are few, we are not popular. Many of us do not believe in their tradition. So it seems completely in bad shape. But don't worry, it's like this in the last 3,300 years. And Hashem promised that the Jewish nation will never not exist. We are the eternal nation in this world, and actually we are the eternal nation ever, even after this world. And this is the meaning of Kol Yisrael Yesh Lahem Chelek La'olam Haba. But people should understand it in the right way. Kol Yisrael Yesh Lahem Chelek. Question is, Eize Chelek? Which Chelek? Which part? And everyone in this world building their part in the world to come. That's why this world is so important. Every minute over here, you could gain higher level or chas v'shalom, lower level, but that will be your part forever. Forever in the world to come. Now, let's describe what's left for us, or what we should expect from this year now, 5,057, 76, to the end of the 6th millennium. Still here in this world. I mentioned that in the lecture on Thursday, but not everyone were there, that there is something called, in the Tanakh, in the prophets, in the Bible, something called Acharit Hayamim. Acharit Hayamim, the end of days. So we have to understand the notion. Well, what Acharit Hayamim? What's the end of days? End of days are the last days. But in order to understand, you have to see where's the beginning, where's the middle, and then you'll know when or what is the end. So, because we learned that we have 6,000, and because we are here, after 5 out of the 6 are gone, and 3/4 of the 6 is already behind us. So we are in the last quarter. In the last quarter of the 6th millennia, and this time, this period of time, called in the words of the prophets, Acharit Hayamim. It's not just the last day; it's the entire era. It's called Acharit Hayamim. Now, there are if you look at the Tanakh, you could find prophecies of few prophets, even many prophets, that predict things. Sometimes they just mention among the prophecy that this prophecy is going to happen at the end of days. I made a list of those events. I'm going to show it to you. The amazing thing is that some of them just happening right now. And that shows or proves that we are in the era that the Nevi'im says called Acharit Hayamim. Let's see them. I believe that almost all of them are known to you. But let's make an order of them. Okay? The first one is Kibbutz Galuyot. In gathering of the exile. The Jewish nation are in exile for close to 2,000 years. This is the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash. And actually, even at the time of the second Beit HaMikdash, not all the Jews came back from the exile that they went to in the destruction of the first temple. The Torah says in many places, even in the Torah, in 5 books of Moses, that the exile of the Jewish nation in case that they will not keep the Torah in Israel, they will go to exile. In this case, they will not stay in exile forever. The Torah promised in different places that Hashem will gather the Jews back and bring them back to Israel. Let me quote you a few psukim from Sefer Dvarim. Moshe Rabbeinu said it before he passed away. We're talking about 3,300 years ago. We're talking about before they enter the country in the first time by Yoshua. And Moshe Rabbeinu wrote those words. Veshav Hashem Elokecha. I'll quote it in Hebrew first. Veshav Hashem Elokecha et shvutcha v'richamecha. ושב וקיבצך מבין כל העמים אשר הפיצך השם אלוקיך שמה. אם יהיה נידחך בקצה השמיים, משם יקבצך השם אלוקיך ומשם ייקחך, והביאך אל הארץ אשר ירשו אבותיך וירשת, והיטיבך והרבך מאבותיך. Exact quote. Let me translate. Hashem will gather you, meaning the Jewish nation, from all the places that you went to exile, and bring you back to the land of Israel. And even if you'll be very far away, b'ktzei hashamayim, at the end of the world, Hashem will bring you back to Israel as a nation, v'yirishta, and you will inherit it, v'hetivcha v'yirbecha me'avotecha, and you will be multiplied, and you will have goodness that never happened in the history of the Jewish nation since it started. That was written by Moshe Rabbeinu 3,300 years ago. Now look at the amazing thing about it. We sing it in the prayer every day. Every Jew who pray 3 times a day, Shacharit, Mincha, V'Arvit, there is a specific bracha speaks about this. Kibbutz Galuyot, Baruch Ata Hashem Mekabetz Nitchei Amo Yisrael. We saying things to pray, right? The amazing thing is, this prayer, Jews saying for many, many years. Let's go back in time, let's say 300 years back from now. You could look, if you know, where were your family 300 years ago? I believe that if we'll just make a survey over here, we will find representative in every part of the world. Right? From Europe to Africa to Asia, Persian, in Persian, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Tunisia, in Poland, in Germany, in Russia, and all over the world. Right? Now Jews, 300 years ago, right? Jews saying this, praying. One day, Hashem will gather us back to Israel. If I have the chance to meet my great-grandfather, go back 300 years ago, great-grandfather, yeah? Ask him, what is the chances that it's going to happen tomorrow? What will be the answer? You know what? We hope, we trust Hashem, but it doesn't look like it's very close. It doesn't look so possible. 200 years passed. And I was born in Yerushalayim. There is a whole people from all over the world that live there. Could you imagine? For 2,000 years it was just a dream and it seems so not realistic. It's really going to happen? You just have to wait. Hashem will fulfill all his promises. And it happened. Here, I just mentioned over here that this is one of the things that not just Moshe Rabbeinu, many other Nevi'im speaks about this, and they said that it's going to happen at the end of days, but it says in advance that it will be in 2 parts. The first part will be a partial ingathering. Not everyone will come. But the last one will be a total, complete. The Yechazkel HaNavi, for example, says, "Velo otir od mehem sham." Will be no one Jew out of the land of Israel. So we are now in between. And this is one of the things. The other one is something really amazing. It's called the flourishing of the land. Let me explain to you what's powerful this thing is. When Moshe Rabbeinu was sent to take the Jews out of Egypt, when he met first time his mission, when he was next to the burning bush, Hashem told him those words. I'm going to take the Jews from Egypt and I'm going to bring them El Eretz Tova Urechava, Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash. I'm going to bring them to a good land. Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash. The land is so good that the honey from the trees will go down, and the milk from the cows will just mix together because it will be so rich and so good. So the land is good. That was the promise. When the Jews entered the country, by the time in Yoshua ben Nun and later on, the Tanakh described that the land was really good. At the time of Shlomo HaMelech, which was the best time in the history, the time of King Solomon, when he built Beit HaMikdash, no more wars, it says over there that every Jew is sitting ish tachat gafno v'ish tachat te'enato, under the vineyard and the fig trees, and it was the best time. But here comes the surprise. After we signed the contract as a nation with God, that we're going to be His nation, and we said, and today we read it, Na'aseh v'nishma, we're going to accept your rules and your Torah and your laws to be the national laws. Hashem told us, listen, you sign a contract. This commitment is irreversible. Irreversible. Now, your history gonna look like the way you choose to fulfill or not your contract. If you'll do whatever you promise to do, you will sit in security in your land. No wars. There will be no war in this country, meaning the land of Israel. You will stay there. It's a good land. It will give you the best fruits. You'll have whatever you need in the high level. Economically, security, everything. But if not, it's written in the Torah before we enter the land the first time in Parashat Bechukotai. If you will not do it, you will not stay in the land. You're going to go to exile. Okay, but there is a specific. Hashem in the Torah specifically related to what's going to happen to the land if you will be obligated to go to exile. And Hashem promised that when the Jews will not be in the land will be deserted. It's mentioned clearly. Let me quote you the pasuk in Vayikra Perek Avav. It says the following: "Va'ashimot li ani et haaretz, ve'shamemu alea oivechem hayoshvim ba, ve'etchem azarei bagoyim." I will desert the country when you will be in exile. And if your enemies will want to come to flourish it, they will not be able to do it. Ve'shamemu alea oivechem. If the enemy will come, they will be there, but it will be desert. And you will be scattered all over the world. This is an amazing promise. Only God could do that. Because if the nature of the land is good, it doesn't matter who agricultured it, a Jew or non-Jew. It happened twice in the history. The first destruction and the second destruction. The Tanakh described that the 70 years between the destruction of the first Beit HaMikdash to the rebuilding it, the land was deserted completely. And since the Romans destroyed the second Beit HaMikdash, go look in the history books. You'll find an amazing thing. The land of Israel were deserted. Let me just add another few piece of information to this. Before the world discovered America and Australia, which is not too long ago, relatively, was only 3 continents with people, right? Europe, Asia, and Africa. Where's the location of Israel in this? Exactly in the middle. In the junction, right? So the people who conquered Europe and Asia and Africa, the empires, the logic says that if you want to rule all of this, the center should be in Israel. Take into account that the land of Israel is holy for Christians and for Muslims. So all those reasons should make Israel occupied and flourished or with people during the history. And yet it was deserted. The Torah says more than that. At the end, in Parashat Nitzavim, in Parashat Nitzavim it says, I will quote the pasuk, exact pasuk. I just remember it because I'm Taimani. Tell you why. The Taimanim is my father, alav hashalom. When I was a kid, I didn't truly like learning in school. But he thought it's not enough that you go to school. After school, you go to the Mori. You know what's the Mori? The Mori is to teach you how to read the Torah and the Talmud in Aramaic. So at the time, it was a burden, and I didn't really appreciate it. But the damage long term is that I could quote just the Tanakh the way it is. Because, you know, when you learn things when you're a kid, it's stuck in your memory. So the pasuk says in Parashat Nitzavim the following. ואמר הדור האחרון, בניכם אשר יקומו מאחריכם, והנוכרי אשר יבוא מארץ רחוקה. And he speaks about the long exile, and he says the following, ואמר הדור האחרון, the last generation, your children, that will be in this generation, the last generation, בניכם אשר יקומו מאחריכם, והנוכרי אשר יבוא מארץ רחוקה, and the foreigner, who will come from a very far country to visit the land of Israel, he said what they're going to say. ואמר הדור האחרון, בניכם אשר יקומו מאחריכם, והנוכרי אשר יבוא מארץ רחוקה, וראו את מכות הארץ ההיא ואת תחלואיה אשר חילה השם בה. And they will see the damage in the country and the illnesses that will be there. And he described how it's going to look like. גופרית ומלח שריפה כל ארצה. לא תזרע ולא תצמיח ולא יעלה בה כל עשב. It will be all salty and gofrit. How do you translate gofrit? Sulfur. לא תזרע ולא תצמיח. You could not do any plant could not grow there. ולא יעלה בה כל עשב. Nothing, even grass. It will be completely yellow. כמהפכת סדום ועמורה אדמון צבועים אשר הפך השם באפו ורחמתו. Like when Hashem turned over Sodom and Gomorrah. ואמרו כל הגויים, and they will say, על מה עשה השם כן לארץ הזאת? מה חורי האף הגדול הזה? Why Hashem cursed this land? Why this great anger? ואמרו, על אשר עזבו את ברית השם אלוהי אבותם אשר קראתי איתם, because they broke the covenant that they have with God. That the verses that is written in Sefer Dvarim, Deuteronomy, 3,300 years ago. Now again, as an Israeli, I could tell you, I don't know how much you're familiar with that, 100 years ago, approximately 100, 110 years ago, when the first Jews came from Russia to Israel, to the land of Israel. You know how the land was look like? exactly in this description. Gofrit, Vamelach, Srefa, Kol Arza was illnesses, anopheles, problems. This, until Jews came, it was a desert. And Hashem says in the prophecy that when the Jews will come, it's in the Nebuat Yechezkel, when the Jews will come at the end of days, the land will really flourish again. Really flourish again. And we see it in our eyes today. You know, go visit there. You see where it's green, it's beautiful. But it was not like that for almost 8,000 years against the nature. So that's again another indication that we are in this era. This is the second thing. The third and the fourth are Eliyahu Navi and Mashiach. We just spoke about this with a few people before, but let me repeat this. In Motzei Shabbat, there is a custom for many communities, many minhagim, to sing about Eliyahu Navi, right after Havdalah. Eliyahu Navi, Eliyahu Tishbi, Bimehera Yavo Eleinu Im Mashiach ben David. Eliyahu is a very unusual figure in the Tanakh. He is the only prophet that survived. He never died. He went to the Shamayim, right? Since then, he has few jobs. Since he finishes his regular job that he has here, a few thousand years ago. One of them, he called Malach HaBrit. He's attended to every bris, every Brit Milah of every Jewish kid or boy or adult that perform Brit Milah. There is a chair of Eliyahu Navi. That's one of his jobs. The other one, he appears in the Bet HaMidrash, in the yeshiva of the Tanaim and Amoraim, and teach them Torah. I just mentioned Tana Devei Eliyahu, you learn with Rav Anan. But it's mentioned in many places that many Tanaim met Eliyahu Navi, and he clarified deep things in the Torah for them. He taught them Torah. The entire Zohar, the entire Kabbalah. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai learned from Eliyahu Navi. The Ari HaKadosh, in the beginning of the book of Ari HaKadosh, that his disciple, Rabbi Chaim Vitar wrote, it says that Rabbi Chaim Vitar wrote it, שלמד מפי רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, שלמד מפי אליהו הנביא. I'm sorry, מהארי הקדוש שלמד מרבי שמעון בר יוחאי. שלמד מאליהו הנביא. So Eliyahu Navi has jobs to, in the Gemara, in the pshat of the Gemara, when people, there are arguments, halachic arguments, and they go to a dead end. You know how it's written? The end, at the end? Teiko. What's Teiko? It's initials. Tishbi yetaretz kushiyot uvayot. At the end of time, he will come and he will solve all the problems that we could not solve in the regular ways of learning. But the major job of Eliyahu Navi is what the Navi Malachi says at the last few verses. הנה אנוכי שולח לכם את אליה הנביא, לפני בוא יום השם הגדול והנורא, והשיב לב אבות על בנים ולב בנים על אבותם. The last event over here is Yom Adin HaGadol VaHaNorah. So before Yom Adin HaGadol VaHaNorah, we'll explain to the day of judgment at the end of the 6,000. Before that, Hashem promised that He's going to resend Eliyahu Navi. So Eliyahu Navi going to come at the end of days to push the movement of tshuva, ve'yeshiv lev avot al banim ve'lev banim al avotam, to be a wind of people who wants to get back closer to the Torah. That's the job of Eliyahu Navi. And another thing, he will come with Mashiach to tell us and to tell the Mashiach who is the Mashiach. How do we know what the Mashiach is? Who is the Mashiach? How the Mashiach knows? By the Navi. Eliyahu Navi will tell us. So this is the third event over here, Eliyahu Navi, then Mashiach. About Mashiach, this is a whole topic by itself. Amazing, fascinating. But I need about 4 hours to cover it. It's called Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. There are two Mashiachs. Two Two Mashiachim, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. Why? Why one is not enough? And what is this? So just a hint. You have to know. There is a prophecy in chapter 36 in Yechezkel. The beginning is very famous. It's Chazon Ha'atzamot HaYevashot. Okay? Whoever knows, fine. And it says over there that at the end of days, when the Jews will come back to Israel, to the land of Israel, at the end of days, they will not be divided to two kingdoms, but they will be under one king, right? Why Yechezkel mentioned that? Because right after King Solomon built Beit HaMikdash, the first Beit HaMikdash, and unified the entire nation, and everything seems just ideal, the next generation, the time of the son of King Solomon, called the King Rechavam, was a rebel against the kingdom of Beit David. And Yerovam ben Nevat, which comes from Shevet Ephraim, which belongs to Yosef, Menashe ben Ephraim, just took and divided the Jewish nation, and he took 10 tribes, and he was the king of them, and the descendants of David and Shlomo, which is Rechavam, was only ruling Yehuda. And it was divided to Yehuda and Israel. And it was stayed like this for the next 300 years, until 300 years after that, the Assyrian came and took the 10 tribes to exile. So it was really short time when we were together under the rule of one king. Very short time. At the end of days, in order to fix this, will be Mashiach ben Yosef that come from the tribe of Yosef, from Ephraim, and he will bring back those section of Jews, and then he will give it over to a ruler of, to the ruling of Mashiach ben David. But there is a whole big story behind it, and why it should be this way. It's a whole big thing. But this is it. This is Mashiach. Okay. After that, this is, I think, the most interesting things in the whole list. The war of Gog and Magog. The war of Gog and Magog is mentioned in the Torah, in the Tanakh, in few places. And this is the biggest war ever. Right after the war will be a world peace. And then after that will be no more wars. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev velo yilmedu od milchama. It will be the peace, no more wars after that. But before this ideal time will come, before that will be the biggest war ever. All the nations in the world will be involved in this. No one will be neutral. And there will be a big, big war. This war, as all of those events, is very good for us. Even though wars are terrible, but it's part of the Geula, the ultimate Geula Dachrit Hayamim. I'll just describe in general, and again, about this, I try to make it short, the short version that I have about the description in the Tanakh, in the simple level, not in the Kabbalah, not in the Medrash. In the simple level, takes me, in short, 6 hours. I divide it to 3 sections, 2 hours each lecture, part 1, part 2, part 3. Amazing information, unbelievable. And it's it's so clear. I mean, the details are if you put them together, you could see an amazing picture. In general, you have to know that, without going now to details, all the nations of the world will unify to go to a war against the Jewish nation in the land of Israel. This is the meaning of this war. And even though it seems that there's no place for war, for sure they're going to win, they're going to lose. Not because we will be stronger. Because Hashem will interfere, and the result of this world, that everyone that will survive it, will know clearly that Hashem Hu Elokim. That Hashem, He is the one who rules the world. And this word in general is good for the Jews. It doesn't mean that no one going to get hurt. But those are in the details of this. It could be. It could be, but it's not, must be. Okay. So this is the war of Gog and Magog. After that will be two things that goes together, which is rebuilding the temple and the Nevuah. מאז שחרב בית המקדש, since the destruction of the first Beit HaMikdash, there is no Nevuah. Nevuah is a level. Churban Beit HaMikdash, the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, it's not a destruction of a building made out of stones. It's the destruction of this level of Kedusha. Churban Beit HaMikdash, this level, we went under the red line of it. So, because this level is not there anymore, therefore, Beit HaMikdash destroyed, and therefore we lost the Nevuah. At the end of days, it's mentioned in the Nevi'im that everyone will be a prophet. V'niv'u bneichem uvnoteichem. Everyone will be a prophet. But it should come with rebuilding the level of Kedusha. Therefore, those two are going together. Chidusha Nevuah, renewing the prophecies or prophecy, and building building Beit HaMikdash. Okay? All those events must happen in the next 224 years. Some of them are in action already. So it's not something you say, you know what, we have time. It could be tomorrow. And it is just ongoing now. Some of these things. You know, you heard the news, no responsible person will say, I know what's going to happen in the future. Future, I mean not in 2 years, tomorrow. We do not know anything. Everything is possible. The last two things, right before the end of the 6 millennia, are those two. Tchiyat HaMetim and the Day of Judgment. Tchiyat HaMetim is one of the 13 principles in the Jewish philosophy. There are 13 principles. The principle number 12 is Tchiyat HaMetim. We sang it, every Jew sang it 3 times a day in Tfilat Shmona Esrei. V'ne'eman ata le'achayot meitim, baruch ata Hashem mechayei meitim. It's a fundamental, it's something of the principles of the Jewish philosophy. The meaning of this, that people who lived during those years, since Adam HaRishon to the end of days, and their neshama was in their body for the time that Hashem decided it will be, 70 years, 80 years, 120, less, more, those souls will go back to the same body that they were in it. The body will rebuild and the neshama will go back to it. What for? And it must happen before the end of the 6th millennium. Why? For one reason. Because of this. Because the Day of Judgment. The Day of Judgment will be at the end of the 6th millennium. What the judgment will be for? The judgment in this day will be about a very crucial thing. Who, from all the people that were in the world, since Adam HaRishon to the time that this event is going to happen, meaning at the end of the 6th millennium, who of them has a portion in the world to come? That will be the judgment. And in general, there is a klal, a rule, Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek la'olam haba. But klal is a klal is a rule. Every rule has exceptions, even this one. So there are Jews who do not have portion to the world to come. is a whole list over there, but it's a minority of the minority. Okay. Now, because every person has to be in this trial, you could not do the trial without them. Therefore, the neshama has to return to the body, and the body and the soul will be standing to this judgment. Now, we come to the very interesting question. Let's say we're after that, okay? The people who passed away were revived. By the way, there is a famous question that for sure you will be interested if we're discussing it. If there is something called reincarnation, and the neshama could be in more than one body, which body will come with them, and what will happen to the rest of them? Right? You want me to discuss it? I will not.
Yes, I want to know.
Okay, but you know what? Fine, but after. Let's just finish the thing. Anyways, let's say we pass this. Let's say we pass this, and we after the event of Tchiyat HaMetim. And let's say we even after the day of judgment, and we know who has a portion for the world to come. Okay? We know it. Now the clock is going, and it comes for the world to be destroyed. Right? The 7 millennium. So what's going to happen with all the people that revived already? If this world will not function, how could we survive in it? The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin asked this question, and the answer is, in a poetic way. It's not literal, but I'll tell you what the Gemara says. The Gemara asks, those people who has portion to the world to come, when the 7 millennia will come and everything will go back to chaos, to tohu vavohu, those are the words of the Gemara. Meaning you could not really survive the way we survive in this world. It should be chaos, tohu vavohu. What's going to happen with the people who has a portion for the world to come? Because the world to come is not here yet. There's another 1,000 years. What are we going to do in this 1,000 years? So the Gemara answers the following. The Gemara says, Hashem will make for them wings. HaKadosh Baruch Hu oseh lהם כנפיים ושתים על פני המים. Let me explain. In the first day of the creation, when Hashem created the world, and now I'm talking about planet Earth, when we are here now, this planet was covered with water, completely, covered completely with water. As it says, והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו וחושך על פני תהום ורוח אלוהים מרחפת על פני המים. It was water all over. In the third day of the creation, Hashem says, ייקבעו המים מתחת השמיים אל מקום אחד ותראה היבשה. The water should move to one place and the dry land should be revealed. Right? So that happened only in the third day. When everything is covered with water, no one could survive. No plants, nothing. Right? So the world going to go back to this state of everything covered with water. So everything covered with water, how people going to survive? So said the Gemara, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give them wings, and they will fly or float over the water. Of course, it's a poetic way to say the following. The common denominator between human beings, animals, and birds, that all of us need dry land in order to survive. But the birds has some benefit. Because they have wings, for a short time, depending how strong the wings, they could just be not connected to the earth and survive. How long? Depends how strong the wings. Some birds, few hours. Some birds that are strong, they could take it longer, right? So wings is just an idea of how you could survive without being dependent on the dry land. Okay? So Hashem could do anything, right? He could do very strong winds that could make you able to stay not connected to the dry land for 1,000 years. Okay? So that's it. It's not the actual wings, but Hashem will make, the bottom line, people will not die because it's impossible to survive. They will stay. Don't forget, it will be Shabbos. It will be Shabbat. It's a different world, different reality. We have no clue. But Hashem has his ways. People will not, what?
Will we still have a body?
Yes.
Physical?
Oh,
spiritual?
yes. And here is the thing. When we really trying to understand how this body could survive, it's impossible. Don't even try. But, you have to remember one very amazing thing. As I mentioned before, when Hashem created Adam HaRishon, He created him a body and a soul, right? And He told them, don't eat from this tree. If you will eat from this tree, you will be mortal. Meaning that if you will not eat from this tree, you will survive forever. How? How this body could survive forever? So it says, and it's explained in Kabbalah books, that it was a major change in the quality of the body and the soul since before the sin to the after the sin. And the Ramchal says the following. The Ramchal says that the quality of the body before the sin was equal to the quality of the soul after the sin. And the quality of the soul was even higher. We could not imagine. So we're going to go back to this state. To this state. And in this state, you could survive. So it will be a body, but it will be much more delicate, much more tender, much more spiritual body. It will still be a body. It will not be a soul. It will be a body. By the way, I have always by the ways, but they are very important. What is the meaning of the word body in Hebrew? How do you say body in Hebrew first? Guf. What is the meaning of the word? In Hebrew. Don't feel bad if you do not know. Even many Israelis do not know. Who speaks fluent Hebrew. What is the meaning of the word guf? The meaning of the word is a cover. This is the meaning of the word guf. Cover. Kisui. Megufat asir. Megufat asir is the cover of the pot. It's called megufat asir. Cover. How do you say boots in Hebrew? Magafine. How do you say a wing? Agaf. Agaf is a separate, it's kind of in the same place. It's something that covers. So body, the way we know it today, is a cover. It's a cover of the soul. You do not see the soul. The soul is covered with a body. Now, the cover could be in different qualities. Depend what it's covering. When you cover something very materialistic, you need a heavy, even heavier cover. When the thing that will be more delicate, you need less heavy cover. And this is the difference between, it will be a relationship between body and soul even then, but it will be different level of delicacy, if I could say it, in spiritual delicacy. Okay, fine. So we explained something. There is a lot more, but I don't know. I think we should stop over here. You know, when you learn, I heard something that people said, Socrates used to say. The Greek Socrates. I'm not sure that Socrates said it, but it's so true that if Socrates never said it, I'm going to say it. Because it's true. They said that Socrates said the following. When I never learned anything, I thought I know everything. When I learned, I knew how much I do not know. So, when you start really learning, you know how much you do not know. And this is proving that you really learned, right? are smart and they love wisdom, but they are not realistic. If you ask a Jew, do you want to learn? If they have the taste of learning, they'll say, of course, I want to learn. What do you want to learn? Everything. The problem is that we want to learn everything in one night and sleep also in this night. It's impossible. But, if the curiosity was raised and after we just touch the topic, we want to learn more, this is a big success. Now we have the rest of our life to fulfill it. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you. It's okay, it's not...